Mike Waskewich. I'm the co-founder of the Bar Book, which is a flavor matching technology platform, and started a nonprofit called Craft, which is a coalition to represent American flavor and tradition.
Awesome, man. So walk me through. We'll start with Craft, and then I want to go over to the Bar Book. So
Yeah.
walk me through what the overall mission is. And I love the fact that I don't do a ton of research intentionally because I want to learn organically in front of the camera. Because the number one thing is I want people to understand how to navigate in conversations with strangers and learn how to connect with strangers. So outside of all the industry stuff, that's why I do these no questions, no prep. We just go live and do whatever happens. So what I want to ask is, there's a lot of organizations and everything, and they're always niche. So right before we went on, we were just talking about the adult beverage category. And it really, when I hopped online to look at your LinkedIn real quick before we hopped on, I was like, that's the way it needs to be, because I'm not crafted for beer. I'm not crafted for spirits. You're building it. You build a nonprofit, and I'm going to assume it's for the adult beverage category.
Yeah, so Craft started out of a journey with the Bar Book. So you can't have one without the other because the journeys are kind of linked, right? So as we were building out the Bar Book and kind of learning the adult beverage industry ourselves, focusing strictly on spirits and distilled spirits, and kind of that category is kind of where our mindset went first. But as we were building this out, we met a ton of veterans in the space. I retired after 23 years of service, and my wife is also a retired veteran. And so as we're meeting these people and connecting, you find that there's a lot of groups and a lot of interest in developing what's next, right? Let's work together, let's do something. The problem is they're all founders and they're all business owners and they're all running their own vested interests. So they have great intentions of actually working together, but they also have jobs and they have to pay their bills and they have to do things. So there was a lot of fall off after the end of those conversations because everybody went back to the real world and the conference was over and life happens. So got together with a group of friends and we decided that we're going to build Craft in a way that represents all of those veteran brands in the entire adult ecosystem. And we use ecosystem instead of category intentionally because we talk about all the way from the farms that grow all the way to the bartender that serves and the person that enjoys, right? So it is the entire category. And then every intersection along the way, right? You have a legal field, you've got a marketing field, you've got a distribution, logistics platform, like all of those have different intersections. And so the adult beverage category, adult beverage ecosystem is unique in that the laws and rules vary from state to state. They vary sometimes from county to county, and the agreements that you make in one space don't work in the other space. And it's a very challenging industry as a whole. And there's a lot of knowledge that needs to be transferred. So that was kind of the baseline for what we wanted to do, was build a way that everybody could work together, share some of this knowledge, and help grow a category that could compete with some of the big boys in this place by unifying, instead of everybody charging at whatever distribution network to say, hope I got to get some shelf space. What if we just all work together and there's veteran shelf space versus XYZ brand shelf space? So that's, like I said, that's kind of the thought process and where we started from.
No, I love it, and I love the fact of what you just said with ecosystem, because internally that's how we look at our business. Like what we do is we provide services of strategy and market development, but also we have partner brands that are vetted, people that are not like we met them at some networking event and we refer clients to them. It's like, no, like they're industry veterans that we've partnered with because we vetted them, we trust them, and they're part of our ecosystem as well. Whether it's a farmer, a distributor, an accountant, or an IT guy, we have all of them, and we call it the free mind flow, and it's the ecosystem of how product flows. And a lot of time, like you just said, the other part is the negative side of founders, and I've been a founder for 17 years, but at the same time, as a founder of 17 years, I sometimes forget what it was like in the first couple of years of being a founder. And sometimes it still happens because I have not made some massive amount of money where I'm comfortable. So just like you said, every other year there's a pivot. I mentioned that I was in DC recently. We're fighting for hemp regulation. And one of the things we were talking about is one of the things as well is that I have friends that are veterans that have I'm in sobriety from alcohol and prescription drugs. So the opioid crisis and alcoholism is a big thing for me. I connect with a lot of veterans in the sense that I spent a lot of time in bars being an alcoholic with veterans and hearing their stories and knowing what's going on and knowing how hard that path is. And one of the things we talk about on the hemp side is people don't realize that it's like, oh, well, you can, if you don't want to take opiates as a veteran because of your PTSD, well, just go ahead and just sign up for a marijuana card. Well, if you sign up for a marijuana card and you're a veteran that also loves his gun rights and wants to keep his kids in the custody of his children, state by state, that's not actually possible. So where is this man or woman going to get the relief that they need to be where they're not stifled by a very un-American way of being able to give access to everybody that needs to happen to from a clean and responsible way. I don't want to use the word healthy at all, but I want to
Sure.
say the word responsible way, and be able to choose their path of how they want to accommodate and be able to thrive in their world. So I'm excited now for this conversation specifically about that, but not just about him, about veterans in general, and the alcohol industry and how it plays a role. Because in my 20 years, I've seen veterans come out about it the way you do, which is a really positive way. You sound like you have a great platform of the full picture of advocacy and education, which is what's needed.
So, I didn't understand that when I joined, and I don't mean to say that, but what I will tell you is, so when we first started, I was maybe a bit naive in the understanding that if you started one of these kind of brands or programs, that you yourself had some sort of connection. I just assumed that it came from a place of natural connection. And that's not true. As I started meeting with other people and talking with, I literally had a founder of, it was actually in the hemp space, but there was a founder that got on the phone with me, and he's like, "So do you guys just say veteran, or are you guys really veterans or whatever?" And I'm like, where does that come from? Like, my whole, our whole board is veteran. Like, every single member has a service connection, and we did this for a reason. Like, but he was explaining to me as we got deeper in the conversation was, there are people that just slap that on somewhere because it's a great buzzword, and it creates a line of cash somewhere. I haven't seen that yet. We're working to do this the right way, and but apparently there are those things. I don't know who they are.
It's not the majority, but they've popped up in the boardroom where I've asked questions and been like, "So nobody here is actually a veteran. You guys are just supporting the veterans group," which is great. I'm not trying to doubt that, but we got to make sure the messaging is transparent when that's being done, because the consumer, that's a manipulation point, and the consumer needs full context when they're choosing what they want to purchase and spend their hard dollars on.
Yeah, so that was, like I said, a point of naivety for us in a moment where we were like, "What? That exists?" So, anyways, when we put this together, the premise was that we were going to use all veterans and then use advisors from the industry to kind of help us out as we, were navigating the space and getting to know who we needed to know and how we needed to know these people and where everything connected. And it's been a fantastic ride so far. I mean, we built the nonprofit in December, and we're putting together a major event for September and a few smaller events along the way. And it's fantastic. We're getting a ton of support. I think everybody understands that this will be huge for the category as a whole, as a way to connect with these brands. And we take on partners, as kind of you alluded to, beyond just the beverage space. So one of the partners we have with us, and I don't mind saying their name on here, but it's Whiskey Valor. And one of the things that Luis and the team over at Whiskey Valor do is they do a lot of stuff with responsible consumption. And so they are coming to our events to be a rideshare partner and talking about, hey, if you want to, imbibe and you want to be a part of this event, if you've had too much, make sure you stop by the table here, and we've got a rideshare partner taking care of you and making sure you get home safe. Because we don't ever want to put somebody in a situation to where they're, overindulging and then unsafe. We don't ever want to put somebody in a situation where they're doing this for the wrong reasons. Veterans in this space connect because we found that there's a similar work relationship in this industry. There's a similar connection, a similar family. A lot of the same reasons we served exist in this industry as well. And I think that's more where we latch onto than maybe necessarily the product and the end state. It is a thing, right? Everybody, understands what the product is they're building, but I think the method for building really lends itself to be more collaborative and family, and that's something great about this industry.
That's exactly it. And it's one of those things where different sectors of the adult beverage ecosystem have kind of lost their way in that. Like I worked extensively from like 2008 to 2018 in just craft beer. That's all I did was work with craft breweries and like Miller Coors' offshoot with Blue Moon and Shock Top, all that stuff. And one of the things in that part of the industry, it was from like 2010, let's say, to 2015, the amount of collaboration, and where like the money and the sales were not important. The number one objective was get this product educated and advocated and understood by the everyday consumer so we can have an industry 5 to 10 years. It was, I hate the phrase, but it was that short-term pain for long-term gain was the mentality. And I think what's happening in certain sectors, and I don't want to pick on everybody, but we're having these new founders in certain sectors that like in, let's say, regulated sectors, like let's take hemp, for example, and they don't have access to bank loans. So craft beer back in 2010, they could go get a bank loan that I'm starting a brewery, blah, blah, blah. And you got money and you could wait, 3, 4, 5 years for that dollar because you had a bank loan that didn't start capping until 3, 5 years and paying back. Now with these hemp guys and like these functional beverage and all these guys that are in this like gray space, they have the opportunity to be exactly like craft beer came out like them with those collaborations and bringing that community, bring that to social aspect of things, bring people out of their house. Because that's the other thing as a whole, what we're missing is as a category, we're losing the fact that on-premise is down. Now, what does on-premise mean? On-premise is bars and restaurants for anybody listening, or places where you consume on the premise of the sale. Now, why does that matter more than just dollars and cents? Well, it matters more than just dollars and cents because the time that this country was founded through the American Revolution, where was the Declaration of Independence written? Where were those conversations had? The society as a whole was built in bars and restaurants. And I'm somebody who's 3 years sober and run a podcast called Ready to Drink because it's ironic and I make it as a play on words, but at the same time, I still spend time in dispensaries, in breweries, in distilleries all day long because that's where the magic happens. And I don't mean the magic of the beer, of getting drunk and whatever and dating and stuff like that. I mean the magic of socialization without parameters. And that's where I want people to understand, like, and I'll reiterate this to you, Michael, and compliment you on this. This is why I have the podcast format the way I do, because I want people to tune in while they're driving and feel like they're the third chair at the bar with you and I while we're having a conversation. And I want people to know. Exactly. And I want people to know as we go into this conversation deeper, that's the intention. It's not to make millionaires. It's to actually bring socialization back to society. And I will speak against something that being promoted is, by our government right now. I watched a press conference where they're like, alcohol is the social lubrication and we all need to, like, that's something that even in the industry working in it, we don't need to be presenting alcohol as a crutch or a lubricant. Alcohol is a piece of society, and it doesn't need to be an accelerator or anything like that,
Yeah, so it's one of the mottos that we use when we talk about the bar book. Again, I'm switching industries for you a little bit.
You're good. Keep going. Yeah, you're good.
But one of the things we use when we talk about the bar book is the connection is the reason, right? It's we wanted to give the networking piece on the bar book as a not only okay, cool, you can flavor match, you can find a place that has that kind of stuff, but the reason for consumption as a whole is exactly what you just said. It is the connection, is the social piece, it is the aspect of it. Nobody wants what COVID left us with, right? And we still talk about that a little bit, but COVID left us with the idea that everybody hoards a bottle or hoards their next collection and puts it at their house, and then they never open it. They keep it there and they don't do anything with it. My wife has a great saying about this. When she was in the military, she was serving with another foreign service at the time. And one of the guys over there was talking about opening a fantastic bottle. And she had the probably uniquely American concept, which is, no, you should hold on to that for a special occasion. And the guy was like, you're alive. Today's the occasion. You may not be tomorrow. Open the damn bottle. And I'm like, when she said it to me, because I had initially the same thought, like you want to make sure it's on your shelf. But at the same time, what good's it on your shelf after you're gone? It doesn't, the memory of enjoying it with the right people and the right occasion, the idea of the bottle is secondary. Quite honestly, you can have a bad drink, a bad cocktail, a bad hemp product, whatever. You can have a bad one of those and you don't remember necessarily that. You remember the moment you enjoyed it. It's multiplied 100 times over if you're enjoying it with the right friends, in the right place, in the right time. And that will be your favorite beverage. Maybe because you think it's tied to the flavor, but it's more importantly tied to the moment. And I think that's huge. And I think you're right, 100% spot on that is the piece that is missing. You give me a Coke in your glass. Quite honestly, nobody cares.
Nope.
At the end of the day, it's how you connected sitting at a bar or at a picnic table or wherever, just talking to somebody.
And I think for me, I have to own and be accountable that like when I was a raging alcoholic, that it was imperative that a beer was in my hand or an alcoholic beverage was in my hand for me to be able to communicate. And in the past 3 years of being at these places and maintaining I don't close bars every week like I used to, but being able to go into a bar comfortably, order a Coke, order whatever it is, non-alcoholic, that they have and enjoy the same experience with those people. I'll think of like 2 years ago, I went out for my buddy's 40th. And I was like crushing non-alcoholic beers the whole night, not because I was nervous or I was going to slide it out of sobriety, but just because I was having fun. And like they were drinking a bunch, and I was like, all right, I'll go beer for beer with it. And yeah, it's empty calories, but it was the experience. And that moment I woke up the next morning and I realized, shit, I can have just as much fun without alcohol as I did with. And that was my wake up. And it was a midway of the 3 year period, the past 3 years. It was right in the middle. And man, that gave me so much acceleration to keep continuing going on, because that's that point in sobriety when you're in that first year, you start leaving the house, you start maybe reacclimating to society, and then there's that danger period. And for me, it's like I'm a living testament, and through moments of suicidal thoughts and an attempt, that realizing getting out of it, that it doesn't matter what's in the glass. And it's like, it's whatever it is for you, it's the everything else around it. So let's go back to the ecosystem.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about like the organization piece and the book as well, the bar book, and kind of like, let's say on an everyday basis, what are some of the top objectives that you guys are providing, and how do you call them partners, or are they sponsors, or how do you kind of delegate them?
So for craft, we focus it as partners, I guess is the best way to say it, or brands is part of the ecosystem, whatever. And so right now what we're doing is we're building out our events. So a typical day as we're looking at craft is we're coordinating events. We want to take some of the burden off of these owners by building situations where they can generate new business opportunities, so they can focus more on the creativity and the moments and capturing all that together. But we want to build opportunity for them to reach new customers and new businesses, new partnerships, new relationships, whatever. So I'll use Tampa as an example, because what we're building down there. Tampa, there's a large conference happening in September called Military Influencer Conference. It's huge, going on for 10 years. And we agreed to be there, a connection with them as a partnership, to do a large sample tasting at this event. So one evening, you'll be able to come in, buy a ticket, and sample 25 different beverage brands from veteran-owned companies. And we have everything there. We have even one THC brand in the room. We have, I think it's 22 spirits brands. And then I've got some sports drink, non-alcoholic, soda, other things that are all part of this. And as we're locking down these, the point of that is that they bring the influencers, they bring the content creators, and we open up these brands to new audiences. So they get to sample pour for all these different people, grow their platform a little further. And then after that's over, we take them off to the side and we introduce them to the local business ecosystem in Tampa. And we say, all right, if you're looking to get your product sold in Florida, here's a veteran distributor, here's a veteran retailer, and here's a few other restaurants and bars, and maybe some podcasters and so on that you can talk to, and will help boost your brand right here where we're sitting. And so that's what we want to replicate over and over with craft, is not only giving them a chance to pour and sample and grow their followers, but we want to create business opportunities for them as well, something they can grow. Because just imagine how cool it would be if you had a veteran-owned brewery, veteran-owned bar, whatever, that has their full service back, and their NA options were veteran-owned NA options. Their regular soft drinks were veteran-owned soft drinks. Their, everything they had was a veteran-owned product in that place. Why not? I mean, the simple answer is because the big guys come in and they push all these other brands. Hey, you got to make sure you have, Pepsi versus Coke, or you got to make sure you have, Budweiser versus Miller, right? Like, they push those things, but at the end of the day, you can get just the same, or if not better, products by being in this network. You just don't know how to access them the same way. And that's what we want to create opportunities for them.
So I love what you're doing here. And it's, I'm going to tell you that I'm going to probably I'll reach out to you to book a separate meeting offline to talk about some actual, I think there's some collaborations that we can definitely do. And especially like some of we have a whole nother arm that's just education and advocacy. And I think there's a huge opportunity to collaborate on that, as well as a directory basis of the market research we've done, be able to help you out with connecting dots on that as well. From a mid-Atlantic region, Pennsylvania. Where are you geographically located?
Just south of DC in Northern Virginia here.
Well, actually, I'm going to suggest we meet up in person then. So I'm about an hour and a half west of you in the Eastern Panhandle, the border of Maryland, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia. Yeah. So I'm right below Hagerstown, Maryland, and Berkeley Springs, West Virginia.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know the area well. I used to live in Frederick, Maryland. Been around this area quite a bit.
Nice. My mom taught in Washington County in Maryland in the school district there. She taught the gifted program for them for many years and retired. Yeah. So actually, I was just in DC this week, meeting, like I said, with Congress and senators over this hemp regulation and trying to get these protections in place, and whether Medicare, Medicaid, whatever it is we need to do to lock this in and get this as a provided aspect. So I'm out there frequently, and I'll definitely, let's connect.
Yeah,
I wanted to also introduce you to another guy. Actually, maybe here we go. I'm going to do it when we meet. I'm going to bring another guy who's been on the show before. And he's a military intelligence officer currently active, Kevin Alcoin, and it's called Alcoin Analytics, AUCOIN. Check him out online. He does like daily briefings and all kinds of stuff.
yeah.
I'm going to have all three of us sit down in person, because he's outside of DC as well. And because I think that one thing is, this has been dancing around, is I have so much military in my life and in my family and things like that, that really trying to help you guys, and anything I can do to accelerate what you're trying to do, I want to be of service to that. And also, I have a future stepson in the house that's a junior in college. It's a ROTC Navy ROTC kid and going into commission. So it's a near and dear to my heart. Another boy in the rear that's considering it as well. So it's a past part of my family, and it's a present part of our family as well.
So one of the things, so I just kind of in the middle there, one of the things Craft is doing also is we're building out, I'm actually developing it right now as we kind of work on some things, but we're building out what we're calling the Veterans History Project. And it's unique to this ecosystem, because one of the things that I want to make sure the story is told is service is not where we stopped, and service isn't all we have done, period. I mean, you can go all the way back to George Washington, and you can go into the Whiskey Rebellion, you can go into his grist mill and his distillery. So you can tell that whole story there, and that's well documented and well known. But what about the other brands? And remember, the whole ecosystem that intersects. Where do they tie? Where did that brewery that was veteran owned decide to be founded, and who were the founders of that, and what's their veteran stories that connected to that? And then where, maybe they worked at it for 10 years and then they branched off and they opened something else. Or maybe it's the marketing agency that came along through it, whatever. So we're using that, and I want to use the podcast stories that people have done as links into this history project as a way to connect this. So eventually, long-term goal, probably 2 or 3 years down the road, is to be able to look up a veteran, click on their thing, and follow their timeline personally or business-wise, follow the business timeline and see the veterans that intersect with that. And again, it's about what contribution did they make and to this whole industry. And then maybe you find some people in there that you want to connect with or learn more about. So that's something we're working on building out as part of this as well, because I think it's a big story that needs to be told.
No, it is. And I'll reinforce that as well, is that a lot of people with this podcast, they'll be like, you do so many episodes. We've done 300 episodes in the past couple of years. And people are like, why so many episodes? And that's exactly why, because there's a library that's getting built. And the library would then, you can hop into topics and everything like that, and be able to search a topic, and then it'll pull up all the clips and all the videos. So it's a bigger picture that I'm playing for, where it seems like I'm being crazy going through interviewing so many people. But you know as well as I do, when there's a searchable, query focused library, the value that can bring to an industry and to a person is crucial. And that is mine long term as well. I originally had a documentary in mind, but I was like, no, a searchable website that is a living, breathing documentary where you can choose your own adventure and how you want it. Like, that's kind of the next level of where I took it in the past year.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And we can talk about how to put some of those pieces together and make that work, because I agree with you. The generation of kids, they don't want to watch a 2-hour World War II documentary. What they want to do is, when they start watching that film and they see Private Snuffy, they want to click on him and learn about his family. And then they want to click, where did he connect to, and why was he over here? And then, like, their minds run in whole different directions because the access to information they have. And I think you're right. I think that's the future of the way history is told.
That's exactly it. History is going to be told in a mind map.
Yeah,
it's going to be a giant flow chart, and it's going to be an infographic, and that's where we have to adapt it. And it's not. And the caution is, the reason I want to control my platform in this way and create one beforehand is that I feel like it'll get bastardized and it'll get dehumanized. These infographics will get so shortened that our history would be manipulated. So that's why I'm glad to be able to talk to you as far as that goes too as well, because the real stories are going to be the most important part. Because just so the corporations might stop us from getting on the shelf, the corporations also don't want us to tell the true story in certain ways. And I don't mean that in a tinfoil hat way. I mean that if somebody's true, authentic story is the opposite of what their mission is, they will actively, if it does gain traction and gain attention, they will actively suppress it. And that's just the nature of the ego and the hubris that we have in the society.
Sure. 100% agree with that. And I think that that's part of it is as long as you play in the ecosystem and you keep kicking your dollars up to the bosses that control, I mean, let's be honest, alcoholic beverage, using that term, is controlled by pretty much 5 major family brands, right? They're pretty much the big 5 that control everything. And then you can, get to maybe 10 when you get to a little smaller, but the person that just started a brewery doesn't stand a chance unless they build something good enough that the big guys buy. And that's kind of the model and the mindset, but why? And I think that's where this, like I said, what we want to be able to do with craft is we don't want to own you because there's no reason for us to, but if we collectively work together under this umbrella of a nonprofit and can do things that, give us the same access, the same reach, the same pull, if you sell to a bigger company, that's great. You can do all that, but you don't need to because you also have this.
Talk to me about your background and your history. You and your wife were veterans. What branch were you guys? And kind of paint that story for me. Yeah.
So story goes that I joined when I was straight out of high school, 17. My mom had to sign my permission slip. I still give her a hard time about it.
What year is this?
2000, pre 9/11.
All right, there we go. We're about the same age, man. I graduated 03 from high school. Yeah.
Yeah. So I got in a little bit of trouble. Single mom household, kind of stuff. I got in a little trouble. I was going the wrong direction. I ended up in front of a probation officer that basically was going to be like, hey, this is what's going to happen. Because it was a small town, my mom was able to convince them to put that aside and let me go into the military. So joined the military, left, worked out well for me. I got back home in 2001 and thought I was going to do the reserve thing for a while. Then 9/11 happened and I got called up, deployed. I went in 04 and then spent my time there, went active duty right after that. 23 years down the road, I decided that I'm hanging it up. I retired as a sergeant major. And the whole reason for the alcohol industry was, I was Army, by the way. The whole reason for the alcohol industry is as you're, retiring, you're meeting all these people. You go to those kind of social occasions, right? Where you have a bourbon, you have a beer, you have all these things. I could afford at that point in my career to have a decent bottle of bourbon or, something with somebody, but still $200 for a, collector's bottle was kind of, I didn't want to do that. So I was looking for a way to help me find another product that I might like before spending the $200. And, I did all these Google searches, web store searches, and I found lots of rate and review platforms. Really, there's YouTube, there's TikTok, there's all these people that'll say, hey, this is the best because I love this one because. The problem is they didn't take into account anything I thought. And you could look at any one bottle and you'll get 15 people saying they love it, 15 people saying it's overrated and they hate it. At the end of the day, it's unique to them. So when I couldn't find it, I went back to a group of friends and I was like, hey, this thing doesn't exist. How, what? Do you know of anything? And they're like, no, I can't believe nobody's ever thought of this before. So my wife was my girlfriend at the time. We got talking and she was like, why don't we build it? We thought that would be easy. It is not. It is a very difficult building a mobile app. It was very difficult. Now it's a little easier, right? AI is all these platforms to build stuff, but back then it was very difficult. So we built it. We went through a couple different developers, went through all these different processes, learned everything, and got all the way ready and we put it on the app stores and it's done. It's ready to go. We're 100%. And then the laws changed a little bit recently for direct to consumer. And now direct to consumer started opening up ways that this could be a little easier to be able to ship stuff to people's homes. So we're like, all right, before we market this thing, let's finish building the direct to consumer. So that's where we're at right now. It's almost done. We've got a partner that's doing direct to consumer pieces with us. So you can use the app. It's there. We just have never marketed it because the last piece we're waiting on is a buy button. And that'll be how it makes money. So it's free to get listed. We'll share any brand that wants to be on there. We'll build out their flavor profiles. We'll do all kinds of stuff with them. The only catch is that when they sell it through our platform, we get a little piece of that.
Oh, that's a great model. I mean, it's a eat what you kill model, and that's the way I live most of everything that I do. So it's like, unless there's something that has some groundwork that needs an operational budget, everything I do is entrepreneurial. So I respect that a lot. And a lot of these startup brands should respect that as well. What when you guys when you guys launch this stuff and go through there, is it going to be like a reviews and community type thing, or how kind of like the mechanics of explaining to people if they go to download it, what are some of the features and benefits that you can kind of see in there?
Yeah. So at its foundation in the bar book is it is a flavor matching tool. So I tell people all the time, imagine what Spotify does for you in your music library, right? If you go and you listen to something in Spotify, the next thing you know, it's suggesting another song, right? You play a playlist, here's 3 more songs that show up and you're like, oh, that's kind of cool. Some of them that you get, you're like, no, not my thing, and you kick it out of the way. We're doing the exact same thing. As it starts to learn what you have rated and what you have liked, it will collect your top flavors, right? You're a vanilla, caramel, whatever. And then it will start to suggest things that have those same top flavors. And it will suggest across mixers, non-alcoholics, sodas, basically anything but wine. We stayed away from wine. We didn't get into that. But beer, spirits, cocktails, non-alc, low-alc, really doesn't matter, even THC, because flavor is flavor. It just works the same way. Eventually we'll, build out further and have it an interactive where you can add flavors to it and it'll start to alter some of the flavor profile stuff. But for right now, we're keeping it very locked. But the point is it starts to suggest and match to you. Now there is a rate and review like anything else, because you want that data for yourself. I tried this on this date, didn't really like it. Tried this on this date, didn't really like it. Or tried this on this date and loved it. You can share pictures to tie back to the moment, right? We were hanging out on the patio, had this one beer. This thing was fantastic. Maybe 6 months from now, you go to grab that same beer and you're like, I don't know what I was thinking. But we keep the ratings tied to you and tied to your moment so that it's always there, but you can change it. You can go back and adjust. So you gave it 5 stars today, you give it 3 stars tomorrow, and then, vice versa, and it can go different ways. So it is rating, but what I tell people about the ratings is the rating is the aggregate. What matters is how it matches to you. And so if you look at any product on there, you'll see a little fingerprint icon and it'll have a color code on it. And if it's bright red, probably not a match. Bright green, probably a match. And it's just a little bit more education to help you when you're walking through a store and you're like, I'm not sure if I like that or not.
I'm going to be honest, man. I meet with a lot of these app companies with different things. This is the coolest idea. I'm being serious. Like that, the algorithmic, because it's something that I preach a lot and I connect with you on it, is the neurogastronomy of flavor experiences, and to take an algorithm, make the algorithm basically what we're used to now, because we're in interest-based algorithms all day long. Like we used to on Facebook, Instagram, we used to be following our friends and all this stuff, but the algorithm, no, it's doing that. It's grabbing what you're interested in, whatever the microphone catches, whenever you leave it on, all that stuff. So this makes more sense, because just like we talked about before, this matches and aligns with how we are consuming information as a society right now. So it universally is complementary, normalized.
And so we care about the whole data aspect, right? So I'm not integrated with the Meta or the other platforms the same way, right? I don't care what your real name is. Now, your credit card company, because that's a third party for me, right? They're going to care what your real name is when you buy and that. But that's a third party piece for me. But as far as what we collect or what we use, your essentially name is some sort of random numbers series in there tied to whatever email address you use. And that's it, right?
Yeah.
We verify that number has this flavor profile. Now, is there a chance in the future that somebody could buy this out and use it in other ways where they use that same technology and stuff? Sure. But at the point of what it is right now, I don't really care what Mike Waskewich thinks of a certain beverage, because I'm not allowing them to market to your flavor. I'm allowing you just to see, because I think it levels the playing field. If Budweiser could come in, or whatever other big brand you could think of, would come in and be like, hey, they love this flavor profile, so we're going to send them every Budweiser product of that flavor profile. Well, then it kind of loses its integrity. And so right now we're keeping this as that's my plan, as long as we are in control of it, is to keep this as everybody's equal as far as, flavor matching. It is truly a flavor matching system. We'll see how things evolve and technology grows, but that's where we want to be.
I like how I'd be interested to with the flavor matching, so it all, like, let's say I'm drinking a Pilsner, you know what I mean? Like I'm drinking a Miller Lite, and then all of a sudden I'm like, I like something light, I like something whatever. It also, from a flavor standpoint, will it go outside of that category, or is it going to
Yes.
send that Oh, that is a whole nother ball game.
Yes. So it will send you into the category first, right? So we use a system of categories and subcategories to start, right? Is like that's your baseline. If you've never matched anything, you're looking at Blanco tequila, you'll match to Blanco tequila, right? Or if you just look at tequila, you'll match to all tequilas, right? But if you start from a basic of I've never done anything to it. But what this will also do is if you're a bourbon person, I use this example a lot because there's a real correlation between the two. But if you're a bourbon person and you like to enjoy a good bourbon, you may also get recommended some añejo tequilas because they have a very similar flavor profile. Or this also works, right? NA beer is a category. But if I've always been a hoppy IPA person. Well, here's a hoppy IPA that's an NA, right? That meets the same stuff. It's in your category. The point is we're trying to link flavors and get you out of your comfort zone a little bit to expand what you could enjoy.
That's what clicked for me right now. I saw this as a huge educational experience.
Yeah. And so the thought process is if you stay in your comfort zone, you'll never change it. Most people, when they go to buy a beverage, they shop a category, they don't shop brands. They shop a category, right? If I'm going to the adult beverage store, alcohol, whatever, I'm going for a THC beverage, I go for a THC beverage. And then the next decision point for me at that point of sale is the flavor that I want, right? Whether it's currant or it's raspberry or whatever. And those are my two decision points. What the brand name is on the bottle is way below the category, the flavor, and then the price tag. Who makes it comes less. Now, I may remember that X brand tastes horrible, and I don't want that. For me, I don't like that. But for the most part, that's how I shop, and most people shop the same. Same with bourbon. They'll go to a bourbon category and go, "Hey, bourbon is pretty much the same." If I want a straight line bourbon, people will argue that I just said the worst. I was just, holy cow, I just broke all kinds of rules. But at the end of the day, they're shopping for bourbon. Now they'll find the bottle, if they want to be like, I need a Buffalo Trace. Okay, they go to Buffalo Trace, they find it, and then maybe they look left and right just a little bit to see if there's something that's, cool or new or whatever. At the end of the day, they're shopping a category. Price is king, and that's what they're looking for as a category. I'm never going to go into a liquor store saying I'm looking for bourbon and end up in the tequila aisle. You don't do that unless you decide maybe I need some tequila as well. You stay where you're at. It's the same with beer.
Exactly. It's funny you brought up the thing because a lot of people overlook pricing, and a lot of times newer founders in this industry, they're worried so much about when they're going to make their money back that they don't realize how important pricing is. And one of the things that when I was in the brand management spot in craft beer, when new brands would come into the boardroom to pitch, one was it wasn't the brand. It didn't matter. Like they could tell me all the stories under the sun about this cool hue and this new brand guide and all this stuff, and it didn't matter because I would always say, all right, customer has $20 in their pocket now. They filled up their gas tank. They got paid on Thursday. They're going to the beer store on Friday. They're $20. Why are they choosing you? And that question, you wouldn't believe how many people it jarred.
Yeah.
Because they would be like, they would tell you all the reasons, but and then I would say, okay, all those reasons you just gave me, does that explain it on the can? And they'd be like, no. And I'm like, okay, so let's take a realistic scenario. I'm walking in the store. I got $20. Your one opportunity is what that can looks like, how it describes itself and everything like that. So that's why I love this product and what you're talking about in this platform, because it bridges that opportunity because it's impossible. Now, let me not say impossible. It's hard for a lot of brands to tell that story on their can. I'm going to give credit for that. But there's creative ways that brands are not activating because in their head, they know their story, but they don't realize that it's that you're getting out your ego. And I'm not saying they're selfish or narcissist or anything like that, but realizing that pretending nobody knows anything about you and go back to the format of the show. That's why I do the show the way I do it, because it forces people to explain themselves. And then also while you explain yourself, sometimes in that realization, people are like, oh, I got a great story. And that's what it comes down to with these brands. A lot of times is it's a compliment because I'm like, you have a great story and you're not telling it. Because nobody knows unless they go to your social media. But in order to get to the social media, they need to know who you are. So there's all this like core issue and cart before the horse type of stuff. So education, again, at the end of the day, people need to understand 90% of sales are done through education. They're not actually done through sales. Like, you have to educate the consumer, and ultimately the consumer is going to choose what they want. You actually can't, like in beverage, you don't sell anything.
And it's expensive to educate, which is another reason. So that is why when I say bar book and craft are so integral in the way they're connected, is because that's one of the things that craft is looking to solve for these people. It's expensive. You, as a singular beverage brand, can't host, market, and publish and put all this together to host your own 1,000-person event and sell tickets for it and do all that at a reasonable cost to where it makes any sense for you as a business owner.
Yeah.
You just can't. You have to partner with somebody else in order to make that, or you just don't mind throwing money away, right? So it doesn't make sense. Well, if we solve that problem for you in the charity aspect, to where people are giving us money that we can now replicate this over again, and we do it over and over and over for all these different businesses across the country, we now give you a platform. We give you access to all those people because the collective draws it much more than the singular.
Yep.
And so we give that. Now you have an opportunity to focus on selling through samples. You sell in that moment when you're talking to them, and not in a, I'm standing in a liquor store trying to catch the 5 minutes that somebody's got when they go in for a bottle and try to get back out. You've got a meaningful connection piece. One, two, they have it's Instagrammable, if that's a word, right? It is the moment where they're standing there with their phone. They're not only taking pictures of your product, but they can do the selfie with you and they can tell this story. It's all of that becomes their friends are now connected to your brand somehow, or at least curious. They're connected to it. And then that exponentially goes bigger with the marketing of the larger, charitable organization as it replicates event 2, event 10, event 1,000, right? It now goes over and over showing your brands and your stuff and how you can do this over and over. And the cost to an individual brand to be a part of this is kind of where I think where our sweet music is. Because if you want to show up, this is what we tell brands every time. If I've limited opportunities, so they have to take advantage of it. But if you want to show up and pour and tell your story, it's free. 100% zero, doesn't cost you a dime. Costs you the product cost of pouring. Period. That's it. I give you 2 chairs and a table, and you can pour. Now, where we get to do this is we make money off ticket sales. We make money off sponsorship opportunities and people to get branding and get bigger. But 2 chairs and a table, you're a small brand, you can't afford much. You're in the same room with somebody that can.
What when you do those types of events, like, so you have the sponsor, that's how you guys make money then. So the sponsorship, because I know you're a nonprofit, but you still have to have operating capital. Yeah. So when you're doing that, so a sponsor might be a lead sponsor that's going to manage the event, and then the sub brands can come in throughout it and protect. I like that a lot. So you guys, and do you guys do these events? So if a brand's listening, which a lot of these brands are listening to this show, is what.
So right now we've got the large event that is on the books, scheduled and building out in Florida in September. That is probably 99% filled, but we've got small opportunities. So if people are interested, let us know. And that one is going to be a 3-day event for us. The conference that it's attached to is also a 3-day event, but not necessarily aligned in the same package. We do a media industry day, like I talked about, where we're going to promote them to the local environment. We're inviting city councilmen and the mayor and a few other people to be like, here are brands that could be a part of your community. Here's an opportunity for you brands to sell yourself to the community. Then we've got, distribution. We've got some podcast people. We've got some content creators. They'll all be there in that same space to help promote them small. The next day, we take them into the larger event that we're a part of, and we walk them on the floor and show them around to basically everything that's there. Then the third day, they sip and pour. They sample with all these people and they do their event. And that's it. So that's a 3-day large event that we're doing in Tampa. Now we're replicating this in multiple places. We're working on a plan for DC. We're working on a plan for Nashville and Jacksonville for next year, Arlington, Texas for next year, Pittsburgh for next year. So we've got a much bigger plan to start spreading across the country with other events. The way we sell this is and I say sell because that's kind of the way we put this together, is we sell this as an opportunity for your large conference. So they always do a happy hour. Why not let us be your happy hour? Why not let us do this as part of your, your conference? And now our brands get to connect not only to your conference attendees, but your conference attendees get the bonus of a low cost happy hour and maybe new business connections. Like we're exploring ones with restaurateurs, we're exploring ones with distilling spaces or brewery spaces, so that those large industry conferences can have this. And again, we're looking at generating business relationships. That's the point.
The what you're doing is we align on that as well. It's when I was in the craft beer space for a while, it was hard to get these buyers together, and it was hard to get buyers in the same room together.
Yeah.
So what we would do is we would do 2 to 3 brands at a time, and then we would bring them all to some sort of a location, and we would bring like 50 different retailers together in the same room, and then we would do the presentations and the one-on-ones and the tastings and the food pairings and all this stuff, because it's not only inefficient from a sales standpoint, but it's also just trying to track people down is absolutely insane. So we'd be going door to door, pitching the same story, telling people to do the same things. But it turned out, just like go back to the beginning of our conversation, bringing them all in the same room. And then what happened was our sales accelerated and our points of distribution accelerated, because they then looked at each other and they looked at each other's visceral reactions. And it wasn't somebody pitching them. Nobody pitched anything. Yep. People just showed what they were doing. And then the community aspect and the energy that was felt off the room accelerated sales and accelerated points of distribution, because they saw common friend, just like the app. You see friends that like this product. Oh, I like that product too, or I might not like that product, or I will. And I think I used to use the phrase shooting fish in the barrel all the time is what it felt like as a sales guy and a business development guy. But it wasn't necessarily that in a negative way as much as it was just efficient for everybody. Because the buyers at the end of the day, when we send the survey, they all were like, this was easier than fielding 15 conversations from 15 kids that just graduated college and don't know shit about my business, and they're just reading a script to me, to be able to sit there and talk to you guys for 2 hours. That's all it was 2 hours. And they came in for 2 hours. It was a 50 buyer cap, and it was a 50 one-on-one. And then we did multiple ones throughout our territory. And we're actually going to be doing that again with our I Want My THC campaign. So we have a campaign for a hemp beverage bill in Pennsylvania that just went public on Friday. And we're doing a statewide campaign for signatures. And then we're building a resource guide, which you're going to love, which is everything you need to know educationally about dosage, proper usage as a retailer selling the product. Therefore, all the education is there in the book. And then also as a bartender, it's an education as far as how to serve, because when the bill passes, we'll actually have hemp beverages in bars. Yeah. And then also as a distributor for storage, for all these different things. And then in between in the book is real stories of real founders. And that's also coming from the transcriptions of these episodes. So it's going to be an ongoing magazine that'll be for free. That'll be inside of every retailer across Pennsylvania called I Want My THC. And it's going to educate the public on the real people behind it, and also educate them on how to properly, manage your life with these products and use them effectively and responsibly with moderation,
I think that's fantastic, because I agree with you 100%. The education is the key to all of this. It's good to talk to somebody who also sees it kind of the same way when I'm talking about, because when we designed this media day out, many of these places have been to what we call, we term of endearment them as bottle shares, right? Where all the founders together, and they all bring a bottle of their product, right? So we took that from, instead of just bringing a bottle for us to share internally with each other that does nothing but just show off your stuff, let's do that same bottle share. We're going to do it. We're going to have a bar with all your bottles sitting on top, and people can go up and they can get their own little samples and try it out, whatever. But we're also going to have 3 dedicated podcast tables where they're doing live episodes with people short form. And then we're going to have limited to 8 content creators in the space. So now when you've got buyers, you got distribution, you've got logistics, and you've got 20 something brands walking around, all having these conversations. You're right. The buyers actually don't have to do anything but watch. If the content creators are picking up this can, they're like, oh, this is amazing. They're taking lots of pictures with it. You're already thinking that's going to look great on my shelf. These people are taking pictures with it. That means it's going to go well. Look, it's already over here doing something. I've got a connection. The same way if on the podcast they're talking about the story behind it, and you're like, I can sell that story. I can hear it. And they can all watch it at the same time. And then they can link to the episode and share it how they want. So all of this happens in the matter of a few hours. in this small space, and then we built some time the next day for follow-ups, right? Because it's generally going to generate conversations where somebody goes, I need to talk more to those people that own that one brand. That's going to fit well in our space. Whatever. But that is what we're trying to build out in this ecosystem here. And then like I said, replicate it again at smaller instances at different places.
No, I'm looking forward to. I'm definitely later today. You'll get an email from me, and we'll have an offline conversation in the next 3 to 4 months. There's a couple of things that I think we could either collaborate on, or just to keep you interested in knowing what's going on and stuff like that, especially with your proximity geographically. So we will be physically sitting together in the next 30 to 45 days. I'm gonna put that commitment on the record and in the episode. So in closing,
we'll definitely do it.
Absolutely. In closing on this one today, let's kind of close out with anywhere people can reach you and can connect with you, like LinkedIn, and then give the websites for each and any social handles and things like that.
Yeah. So if anybody's curious, wants to learn more about the bar book or craft or anything that we're doing, or contact me directly, I'm always available through my LinkedIn, Mike Waskewich on LinkedIn. You can also search craft on LinkedIn, the bar book on LinkedIn. The bar book is the barbook.app, or it's in all the app stores. You can go and download it, the bar book. Craft is online at supportcraft.org. And then you can email. There's links in the site to be able to email directly to us. But take a look, see what's going on there, and we'd love to add any veteran brand, any veteran allied brand, or anybody that just wants to be part of this ecosystem to help. Shoot us a message, and let's get you involved too.
Perfect, man. Well, hey, I appreciate you taking the time today, and I don't say that lightly, because it's something about this format that there's no questions, there's no prep, and it makes some people nervous. And I want to congratulate you for surviving, you know what I mean? But at the same time, I want to say thank you for your courage. And I knew when I booked you, I didn't know a lot about you intentionally, but I did know with the veteran aspect of things that I have yet to ever meet a veteran that wasn't ready for a good challenge. It can always brace itself through a 60-minute Zoom meeting or whatever it is. We're on Google Meet.
It's a pleasure meeting you. And yes, we are getting together, whether we go out to Leesburg and meet, or wherever your other guys at, somewhere that we can meet kind of in the middle and hang out. And I'm interested.
So I'll close out to everybody, remind everybody that this is more than just a show about drinks. This is more about a show about entrepreneurship. This is just a show about being a good human being. And when you're out on the road, walking in the street, look a stranger in the eye, put your phone down and put it in your pocket, smile at people, hold the door for a stranger, whether it's male, female, German Shepherd, it doesn't matter. And when you're at the gas station, filling up your cup of coffee, look to the guy next to you or girl next to you, ask them how they're doing, and actually shut your mouth and listen for them to answer, and actually give a shit about what they say, because this world is a beautifully destructive place, and we are all in this together. And the more people realize that there's a lot going on in everybody's life, and it's really inexpensive to just be not a piece of shit human being in this world, and to be a good human. So, Michael, thank you for being a good human. Thank you for having the balls to come on the episode. And I'm looking forward to the fact that you taking the risk is probably going to lead to something really fun for us in the next few months. So I'm looking forward to meeting you in person, man. And thank you for taking the jump.
Yeah, no worries, Nate. Hey, it's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. You have a great rest of your day, brother.
All right, you too, man. Take care.
Yeah.
Bye.